My name is Emily Ward. I am 38 years old, and I used to think exhaustion was the heaviest thing I could carry home after a night shift. I was wrong. That morning, I came through my front door with my hospital badge still clipped to my shirt, my feet aching, my hair still carrying the faint chemical smell of a 12-hour shift, and my phone buzzing like someone was trying to wake the dead. I thought it was another staffing emergency. Instead, it was my family group chat. My father had posted a message the way someone announces something already decided. My Lakehouse, that weekend. 20 relatives, Friday through Monday, not asked, not suggested. Assigned. Before I could even process it, my mother followed. Fill the fridge. Make sure there are enough towels. Behave so you don't ruin the weekend for everyone. I stood in my dark kitchen, still wearing the shoes I had spent the night running hospital corridors in, and something inside me went completely still. That lake house was not a family resort. It was not a reward they had earned for tolerating my success. It was the one peaceful place I had built with years of missed holidays, double shifts, and days when I was too tired to speak. So I typed one word. No. The chat went quiet. Then my mother sent laughing emojis and wrote, "You really think you can stop us?" I put the phone down and let them believe whatever they wanted to believe. By Friday morning, when my father called screaming, "What did you do to the house?" he had already discovered the difference between a daughter who argues and a woman who owns the door. I work as a night shift house supervisor at a large hospital in Charlotte. The title sounds organized. The reality is not. My job begins the moment everyone else wants the night to stay quiet and it refuses to. Trauma through the emergency doors. A nurse calls out when we are already short. A machine fails. A hallway fills. A unit calls for help. And somehow I am the one who is supposed to find a solution before the pressure reaches the whole building. I have learned to drink coffee that went cold 2 hours ago. I have learned to answer 3 phones while reading a chart and listening to someone cry. Being calm does not mean you are not tired. It means tired is not allowed to be in charge. For years, I picked up extra shifts, covered holidays, and told myself there would be a reason for all of it. That reason became the Lakehouse. It sat in a quiet, gated community near Lake Norman. Not a mansion, not a glass palace. A warm, simple house with a dock, a screened porch, 2 guest rooms, and a kitchen where the morning light came through like forgiveness. I bought it because I needed one place where no one was asking me to fix anything. My husband Ryan understood that before I even explained it. My father, Victor, saw something different. Victor had spent his working life managing warehouse logistics, and retirement did not soften his need to direct people. If a conversation did not center him, he corrected it. My mother, Diane, was softer on the outside but not easier to resist. She did not bark orders. She sighed. She said things like, "I just thought family mattered to you," and then waited for guilt to do the work. That was how I grew up. Family first. Family helps family. Family does not keep score. But somehow I was always the only one expected to prove it. When my parents needed their HVAC replaced, I helped. When my brother Marcus needed money after another collapsed business idea, I helped. When my sister Brooke needed camera equipment for her fitness content, I helped. At first they thanked me. Then they expected me. Then they acted insulted when I hesitated. The lake house gave them something bigger to want. The first time my father called it our lake place, I corrected him gently. He looked at me like I had interrupted him over nothing and said, "You know what I mean." But I did know what he meant. I just was not ready to say it out loud yet. After that, the requests came slowly enough that each one seemed too small to start a fight over. Marcus would text asking if the house was empty, already asking about kayaks and life jackets before I had answered. Brooke came for what she called a quiet wellness weekend and spent 3 days filming workouts on my dock, smoothie videos in my kitchen, and sunrise content with my lake view behind her. I only found out the extent of it when one of her followers commented asking if my home was available to rent. When I asked her to take the posts down, she told me I was overreacting. When I asked Marcus to pay for the cracked kayak, he said I should not buy lake stuff if I was going to be uptight about people using it. When I wanted privacy, I was selfish. When I wanted respect, I was controlling. And my mother always stepped in with the same polished sadness. Marcus is under pressure. Brooke is chasing her dreams. Your father is just proud. Proud became the excuse for everything. I tried to create rules, a shared calendar, guest limits, parking limits, written guidelines. Everyone agreed because agreeing was easy when they had no intention of changing. Ryan saw it before I was ready to admit it. One Sunday evening, after we spent 2 hours cleaning up after a visit no one had asked permission for, he stood in the hallway holding a wet towel someone had left in a closet and said quietly, "Emily, they don't ask anymore. They announce." I snapped at him. Then I walked into the kitchen and saw a cabinet handle hanging loose, a sticky ring on the wood table, and a bag of trash Marcus had promised to take out sitting by the back door. That was when the truth settled over me. My family had not become careless overnight. They had learned that if they pushed far enough, I would clean, pay, forgive, and call it keeping the peace. They were not confused about my limits. They were counting on me not to enforce them. The weekend that finally changed me happened around the 4th of July, after one of the worst stretches I had ever worked. We had been short-staffed for days. 2 nurses cried in the break room on the same night. One asked me how much longer we were supposed to keep pretending we were fine. I did not have an answer because I was not fine either. When my last shift ended, my hands shook unlocking my car. Ryan took one look at me and said we were going to the lake. Just sleep, quiet water, and whatever food we could throw in a cooler. I told my mother clearly when she called as we were unpacking. Quiet weekend, just us. She made the soft, understanding sound I had mistaken for love most of my life. 3 hours later, I heard tires on gravel, then another car, then a third. I stepped onto the porch and saw my parents, Marcus, his wife, their kids, Brooke with a camera bag, and 2 cousins carrying folding chairs. Coolers, charcoal, beach towels, a Bluetooth speaker, pool noodles, and the confidence of people who had never believed my no was real. My father came up the steps smiling like he had done something generous. "See, this is exactly what you needed. Family around you." Ryan waited, giving me space to choose. The old training took over and I managed instead of acting. I reminded people about shoes inside, pointed to the trash bins, asked the kids not to run near the dock. Nobody listened for longer than a few minutes. By afternoon, the music was blasting from the porch. Wet towels were draped over dining chairs. Brooke had invited 2 friends for the light. A neighbor texted asking about cars blocking the lane. The community patrol stopped by and reminded me of guest limits, parking rules, noise ordinances, and dock safety. I apologized for a gathering I had never agreed to host. That sentence should have embarrassed everyone. It did not. Then Marcus backed his truck into 2 landscape lights. Someone spilled barbecue sauce on the porch rug. Brooke filmed in my kitchen, smiling into her camera while telling her audience that nothing heals like a family lake weekend. When I asked her to stop, my father heard us. He stood from his chair, still holding a paper plate, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Why buy a place this big if you're going to act small about sharing it?" The porch went quiet. Not because anyone was going to defend me. It was the quiet people use when they know someone has been cruel, but do not want the discomfort of saying so. My mother looked away. Marcus found the grills suddenly interesting. That was when I finally saw my father without decoration. He did not think my lake house was proof that I had worked hard. He thought it was proof I had stepped above the place he had assigned me. If he could turn it into a family resource, my success would stop feeling like mine. It would feel like his. The next morning, Ryan and I cleaned for nearly 6 hours, crushed chips under the sofa, a broken dock ladder, a formal written warning from community management. I paid for the lights. I paid for the dock repair. I apologized to neighbors who had been more patient than my own family. On the drive back to Charlotte, Ryan finally asked, "How many more times are you going to call disrespect loyalty?" I did not answer, but something inside me did. No more. I changed the smart lock code and removed the backup my father had insisted on keeping for emergencies. I told everyone that visits required written approval with dates, names, and exact guest counts. No extra people, no filming for business, no sharing the address. My father called the new rules cold. I told him cold was better than confused. Then came the group chat post. I saw it on a Thursday morning after a night shift, sitting at my kitchen counter with toast I was too tired to eat. Brooke's story. A filtered photo of my dock glowing at sunset with bold white letters across it. Harper Family Lake Getaway. 3 days at Lake Norman. The plan in the family chat was already fully built. 20 relatives. My father had assigned rooms. He and my mother were taking the master bedroom because, as he wrote, parents deserve comfort. Room assignments for Marcus and his family. Brooke needed the room with the best morning light for a partnership reel. Cousins were bringing air mattresses. Someone asked whether the dock could handle a pontoon delivery. My mother closed the thread with one sentence: "Fill the fridge and behave." People are driving a long way. I looked at those words and felt something inside me close, not in anger, in decision. I typed, "No." The chat froze for almost a minute. Then my mother sent laughing emojis. My father did not respond at all, which was the most insulting part. He did not need to argue. He believed the matter was already settled. They were all still speaking to the version of me who used to panic and explain and compromise until everyone got what they wanted. But that woman had cleaned barbecue sauce off her own porch after being humiliated in front of guests. That woman was gone. I took screenshots of everything. Room assignments, grocery instructions, Brooke's public post, my mother's laughing emojis. Then I opened my laptop and started closing every door they had mistaken for weakness. I called the community management office and told them no gathering had been approved at my address. The manager remembered the 4th of July warning and did not sound surprised. 20 people would violate guest limits, parking rules, dock access, and noise ordinances before they even unloaded a cooler. I canceled every old guest pass connected to my relatives and sent written confirmation. 2 approved guests for the weekend. Me and Ryan. I changed the lock code. Set motion alerts on every camera. Arranged an additional security patrol at the gate during the expected arrival window. Ryan came into the kitchen while I was reviewing the confirmations. He read over my shoulder, then looked at me carefully and asked, "Can you live with what happens after this?" I knew what he meant. My father would explode. My mother would cry. Relatives would call me cold before ever asking what really happened. I looked at the screenshots, the canceled passes, the new code. I told him, I can live with them being angry. I cannot live with letting them teach me again that my limits are decorations. On Friday morning, we drove to the Lakehouse with groceries for 2. My phone buzzed the whole way. Marcus asked about overflow parking. Brooke asked about the master bathroom lighting. My mother asked about breakfast food. Nobody mentioned my no. They were all driving toward a house they believed my guilt would unlock before they arrived. At 1:37, my camera showed the first SUV at the gate, then another, then a third. Coolers strapped down, beach chairs in trunks, my father in the front vehicle leaning forward like impatience could open a barrier. I watched the security guard step out. The cars stopped. For the first time in my life, my father's certainty met a locked gate that did not care who he thought he was. The guard called me. In the background, I could hear my father's voice rising, the same tone that had made rooms go quiet my whole life. I told the guard no one in that group had permission to enter. My father called next. No hello, just, what did you do to the house? I looked around my quiet kitchen at the 2 coffee mugs Ryan had set out beside the sink. I protected it. He shouted that people had driven hours, that children were tired, that I was embarrassing him in front of the family. That last part told me everything. He was not worried about the children. He was worried about being seen clearly. I said, I told you no. This is private property. Then I hung up. The family chat collapsed into itself. Marcus wrote that I should have warned people. I sent a screenshot of my no. Brooke said I had ruined a planned content weekend. I sent a screenshot of her post using my doc before I had agreed to anything. My mother called me cruel and said I was humiliating my father. I sent her own message back into the chat, the one telling me to fill the fridge and behave. Then one of my aunts asked the question that changed everything. Victor, did Emily actually approve this? My father did not answer. A cousin said she had taken 2 days off because Victor had promised the house was open. Another said he told everyone it was arranged. The word yes became the center of the whole disaster. Not family. Not generosity. Consent. And consent was the one thing my father had quietly skipped. Outside the gate, the perfect lake getaway collapsed under the weight of its own lie. Hotels nearby were expensive and most were already booked. The pontoon rental deposit was non-refundable. The catering cancellation had a fee. Brooke's photographer wanted payment for the blocked time. Marcus had promised his kids a weekend on the water and had to explain why they were sitting in a parking lot while their grandfather made calls to a motel 40 minutes away, putting rooms on his own card. While relatives asked questions, he could not answer without admitting the truth. He had not been a generous father. He had been generous with something that was not his. By evening, Brooke had deleted the getaway post. Marcus was arguing with my father in the group chat instead of texting me. My mother sent one final message. I hope you're proud of yourself. I did not respond. I was not proud that children were disappointed. I was not proud that relatives wasted gas or that the day became uncomfortable. But I was proud that the discomfort finally belonged to the people who had created it. Over the next week, a few relatives reached out privately. One cousin said she had believed my father helped pay for the house because he always called it the Harper Lake place. Another said she never would have come if she had known I had said no. Their words did not erase years of entitlement, but they mattered because the story was no longer controlled by my father's version of events. I made permanent changes after that. No open access. No visits without written approval. No more financial help handed back to me like unpaid invoices. No more calls where someone screamed or cried or tried to turn love into debt. My parents did not apologize. My father sent a long email about arrogance, cruelty, and forgetting my blood. I read it once, saved it, and did not answer. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is proof that the hook no longer catches. The following Saturday, Ryan and I sat on the dock while the lake was still gray with morning. No strange cars in the driveway. No coolers scratching the floors. No one filming my kitchen. No one claiming my bedroom. The house felt quiet in a way that reached my bones. Peace is not just the absence of noise. Peace is knowing the door will stay closed when you close it. It took me 38 years to learn that. I hope someone hears it faster than I did. Family matters. But family is not a free pass to ignore consent. Helping people does not mean granting them ownership over your life. Gratitude to your parents does not mean handing them your home, your health, or your peace whenever they demand proof of loyalty. Real love asks. Real love listens. Real love respects the answer even when the answer is no. Boundaries are not betrayal. They are education for the people around you and protection for the person you are trying to become. That weekend, My father wanted a free 3-day getaway for 20 relatives because he believed I would rather suffer quietly than make him look foolish publicly. What he got instead was the first consequence he could not shout his way out of. And what I got was something I should have claimed long before the gate ever closed. My home, my peace, and my right to say no.